The Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. Talk truth, build roots, stories unfold. Motivate change, mobilize is the mode, that's the MR code. Hey! We growing, we know it.
Find another spot. Don't waste my time or let down my crumbs in this parking lot. You're blocking up the traffic, a long line in the road. Yeah, this and that, the expletives, the attendants start to offload. Well, I was taken aback. I wanted to retaliate. Cause who the hell she talking to? Man, she can't be thinking straight. As soon as I went to wash she off, I see the tears in her eyes. With a trembling voice, she started to apologize. It's a chain reaction, nothing to do with you. Just a chain reaction of what I'm going through. Well, I thought I had it on the wraps, but I'm slowly losing my mind. My reaction to this chain of events had me in a bind. I lost my son to gun violence, brother in police custody. And on top of that, the doctor called with the worst diagnosis for me. It's not an excuse for my behavior or the situation, but it's mainly a result of a chain reaction. These problems back up like traffic and cause a chain reaction. Whoa. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, miss, push the groceries. The belt ain't working today. My hand can't reach, I ain't hurting my back. They don't pay me enough, but hey, I ain't lifting up no detergent. Them potatoes too damn heavy. Come round and lift them up yourself and put them straight back in the trolley. Well, I nearly blow a fuse, cause this cashier had me so confused. Throwing both my things like she mad, but I ain't sign up for this abuse. As soon as I went to jump on the belt, do bad and start to cuss. With a heavy heart, she started to spill she guts. It's a chain reaction, nothing to do with you. Just a chain reaction of what I'm going through. Well, I thought I had it on the rocks, but I'm slowly losing my mind. My reaction to this chain of events had me in a bind. My child father, he just beat me. Mother, this morning put me out. And on top of that, I get pregnant and I can't feed another mouth. It's not an excuse for my behavior or the situation, but it's mainly a result of a chain reaction. These problems heavy like groceries and cause a chain reaction. You say, how the service, oh hey, gone to the dogs. Whenever you conducting business, you're dealing with hogs. They're walking bound with problems and dumping them straight on you. Like customers ain't got issues, them dealing with daily too. We are carrying heavy loads and under mental strain daily. So who give you the right to feel you could treat people badly? Remember, we have no oil or gold and we shake are running low. Hospitality and tourism keep we afloat. It's a chain reaction, all to do with we. It's a chain reaction of what we go through daily. Well, we thought we had it on the rocks, but we slowly losing we mind. Our reaction to this chain of events had we in a bind. Overworked and underpaid weekly, inconsiderate, inhumane boss. And on top of that, the bill sky high and we operate at a loss. No more excuses for we behavior or we situation, but we have the power to break this chain reaction. Make positive change in this country, the new chain reaction. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh.
Well, there you have it. Chain reaction. Chain reaction. Well, good evening to all of you, loyal opposition, and all of you that are viewing, even from the government and from around the world, the diaspora, wherever you're viewing. Good evening and welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show. I am Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and it is my joy and my honor and privilege to be your host on Friday nights for the Marcia Weekes Show. Now, I did miss last Friday night, but I had a legitimate reason, okay? I had a good reason for not being here last Friday night. Last Friday was July the 17th, and that was the 44th wedding anniversary for myself and my wife. And so we took that evening off. Of course, I had to take the day off from everything and celebrate. And I did not forget. Some people may have thought I forgot, but I did not forget our wedding anniversary. I never do. And there are many times I haven't been here on island in the past years to celebrate together with her. But when I am here, I am not available for anyone at any time during that day. And of course, it was a weekend event. And unfortunately, I couldn't assist Marcia over the weekend. Hence, you didn't have a show on Sunday night because of the World Cup final. And I mean, man, and then there was a big event at Praise Academy with entertainers going into Calypso finals, into the Kadooment period. And of course, we went through the whole weekend, but I'm happy to be here with you tonight. And thank you so much for all of your wonderful wishes and all of your greetings. And I really appreciate so very, very much. I thank Marcy as well for letting you know 44 years. And maybe one of these days I'll be able to tell you a bit more about it. But for now, I want to thank all of you for your really wonderful wishes and everything that you blessed me with over that Friday night. I did get a chance to watch it. After, of course, I could not do anything over the weekend. And, I was on the good manners. Okay. I was on the good manners. So thank you all very, very much. Well, before we get into tonight's show, as is customary when I am hosting the show, I like to remind Barbadians, not only us here on the Loyal Opposition, but Barbadians and all who watch, our national pledge. Because very often people seem more committed to a political party, and that's around the world, than they are to their country. I'm very committed to my country. There are many offers I've had to relocate and minister other places by some tremendous ministers over the years, and I chose to remain in Barbados. I love my country, and so we want to share the national pledge tonight. And I would ask you, please, wherever you are, to take a moment and just repeat it together with me. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. And that would include my country, not just overseas when I'm on trips, ministering around the world, but right here in Barbados. I pledge allegiance to my country and to my flag, not just when I'm speaking in Ethiopia, or when I'm speaking in Nigeria, or when I'm speaking in the UN, or when I'm speaking in the WEF, but when I am right here in Barbados, I pledge allegiance to my country. I do not, and I have never pledged allegiance to anyone save Jesus Christ outside of my country. I have not pledged allegiance to the political party, and I haven't pledged allegiance to any form of political association. I have been dedicated and faithful and committed to several areas of ministry, including 19 years of ministry at People's Cathedral in Bishop's Court Hill, Bridgetown, Barbados. And I didn't pledge allegiance to them. I pledged allegiance to Jesus Christ, and as a result, they benefited from all that I had to offer to him. And so I pledge allegiance to my country and to my flag, home and abroad. So let me welcome you this evening then to the Marcia Weekes Show, all of you, so many of you on the show tonight. So far, I'm going to ask you to make sure, as Marva has suggested and recommended and instructed us, to like and share. This is very important because it gives our algorithms in terms of YouTube and I believe in Facebook, it gives us a higher position where those algorithms are concerned. And it would then mean that when people are looking for things to watch, we'll come up more often than, or easier, or as a priority over other events and other persons. And so we want to thank you right now for liking and sharing the links that we have and the show tonight. And in doing that, I want to welcome all of you that are joining me tonight. That is Sharon P8E. Good evening to you. And Dave, you're going to have to help me with some of these names here. God 77X. Good evening to you and welcome to the show tonight. Lucinda Aline, it's a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. Of course, Taroni Hall. Of course, Taroni. We are so happy to have you back with us this evening. And Wayne and Marva Lashley, thank you for your wonderful wishes, Marva. I really do appreciate it. And I give you greetings as well, all of you, from my wife. So thank you so very, very much. And yes, we are looking forward to having a great, great show tonight. And we are going to be talking about a number of things that have been in the news over the last couple of weeks. And I don't know, Sharon, who has or has not seen the video clip with Bounty. I myself, I have not seen it. And I am just noting here, not even wild animals behave like this. Shame on those prison officers and those up the chain of command. There's a problem in Barbados when it comes to the demonstration of authority. And maybe I'll get a chance to come back to that. Because I find that when people in Barbados are given positions of authority, they seem to assume it means that you have to be unmannerly, disrespectful, aggressive, and all the other negative traits that go along with the negative aspects of authority. So maybe we'll get a chance, Sharon, to come back to that. Good evening, Andrea Critchlow and Judy Gills. Good evening to you as well. God bless you. Pleasure to have you with us. Bajan Boy 246 and Jefferson Sobers. Thank you so much for being here again with us tonight. Sherry, that's let me make sure I get this right. Sherry Johnson, bless you too. I'm a big girl. Good evening, ma'am. Good to see you, and thank you for your greetings in the store the other day, really. Thank you so much. Great to have met up with you. And I saw a couple of people meeting up with one another on the comments tonight, and that's a good thing. Good thing that you're beginning to connect with each other. Laurie Bob, good evening to you too, and Jacqueline, Aline, a pleasure to have you with us. Beverly Prescott, thank you for being here again tonight. Sonia Perch, bless you, Sonia. A pleasure to have you joining us tonight. Marva Hunt, again, welcome to the show. I'm a big girl. There you are. I am a big girl. Yes, Angela White, great to have you. Jacqueline, Aline, pleasure to have you with us tonight as well. Marcia Miller. I tell you, there's so many of you, and I hope you don't get offended if we don't call every single name, but maybe one of these evenings we'll get a chance to call every name. All right, calendar 24, is that 2463? Great to have you with us. First Wizard, good evening to you as well. God bless you. Great to have you with us this evening. Looking through here, Sherry Johnson. Sherry, welcome to the show. A real pleasure to have you with us this evening as well. God bless you. And let me just fly down here really quickly. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you. God bless you for your kind words. Really appreciate it so very, very much. God bless you. We really, really do. We really, really do. And we are appreciative of all of you, all of your comments, all of your well wishes, everything that you share. We really do appreciate you. We are loyal, Dr. Ferdinand, especially to Barbados, says Taroni. Yes, Taroni, I agree with you 100%. Thank you, Judy, for your wonderful greetings. God bless you as well. And yes, you know, I can't do without my wife. Wonderful woman, wise, and we'll be talking a little bit about wisdom in just a moment. So we want to welcome you to the show. We have a number of announcements that I need to get through pretty quickly, and I'm going to ask Dave to help me with it. Now, the first one we want to do, Dave, is the Walk Holy Band. Okay, coming up very shortly in just a few days will be Kadooment Day, and we are inviting you to be a part of the Walk Holy Band. Okay, and you can be a part of this tremendous grouping for Kadooment, a very, very righteous group that really represents very honestly the culture and belief systems. And that's one of the things about a culture, you know, that a culture is the belief systems of a people. And there are a lot of belief systems that are not ours. Okay, a lot of them. And a lot of them that are being forced upon us. And we have to defend our belief systems. And so, Dave, I'm going to ask you to go right ahead and share that video with the Walk Holy Band. And while you're doing that, maybe I can take a moment to talk about it. The Walk Holy Band We are inviting you to become a Walk Holy partner. And there we are. Dave, go right ahead, please, and let that video roll.
Walk Holy 2026 celebrates this unique island, Barbados, and her history.
Every step we pray. And praise Jah.
Is asking her to return to her place of righteousness. Join Walk Holy if you too believe that Barbados needs to return to the godliness and righteousness that allowed her to punch above her weight. Call or WhatsApp us at 246-245-0396 or 246-236-7000. If you're coming in from over and away, drop us a note so we can make provisions for you. Bring your best contributions and come. Join in with Walk Holy and help us steer this unique island back to righteousness again. See you there.
Yes, that's the Walk Holy Band, and we are a unique island, and we're heading back home. Okay, and that will be no mass, but culture, music, faith, and praising God. And it's enshrined in our national anthem. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. With him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. So we make no apologies for presenting the gospel and presenting God and presenting Jesus Christ in the midst of the celebrations of Kadooment. And I know there's some people that are not supportive and not in agreement, but let me remind you of two things that Jesus Christ himself said. First of all, you are the salt of the earth. Last I checked, salt is useless until it's applied in a specific place, and it is either good for preserving or preservation, or it is good for taste. Jesus didn't leave the salt in the jar, he put it in the environment. And so it is necessary for Christians to bring your head up out the sand, stop being a holier than thou attitude, and realize that you have to be among the people in order to salt the earth. And for those of you who like the phrase, come ye out from among them and be ye separate, and touch not the unclean thing, remember the words of Jesus in his high priestly prayer in the 17th chapter of the book of John, where he said, Father, I pray that you do not, listen to the word, do not take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil or from the evil one. And then secondly, he said that we are the light of the world. Last I checked, the most powerful presence of light is seen in the darkest environment. I am told darkness is the absence of light. And so as a righteous people and as the people who carry the light and the salt, we are obligated to present ourselves in the midst of darkness and in the midst of decay. And I say no more about that with regards to the biblical position. And I know there are some people of faith who will not agree, and that is entirely your democratic right and privilege. And that is something that we as a country still maintain. But this Kadooment Day, August the 3rd, register today with the Walk Holy Band, and that would be 245-0396 if you wish to call before you arrive in the country. That would be area code 246-245-0396. Okay, so we are looking forward to you being a part of a tremendous salt and light experience on Kadooment Day, leading out the bands and preparing the way before anything in the realm of perversion or whatever you want to call it comes. We will clear the atmosphere and allow God to touch the lives of men and women, even those who are viewing on the side of the street and those who are viewing via YouTube and other mediums. So thank God for the Walk Holy Band. Look forward to hearing from you with regards to that. The second thing I want to announce is that of a very special broadcast This is going to be on Monday. This is, I believe this is going to be Monday. Let me get the date correctly, because I tell you, days are flying so quickly that it's almost impossible to keep pace. This is going to be, I think today is the 24th. This will be on Monday, I think the 27th. And this will be a special broadcast, Memories of a Son of the Soil, honoring Sir Garfield Sobers. And this is going to be live in studio at 7 o'clock on Monday. Okay, 7 o'clock on Monday. And just to let you know that, I tell you, this gentleman has been a inspiration to me. And I had the distinct pleasure, I got to say this, I have engaged him on several occasions. When he became a national hero, myself and Johnny Tudor, we were both serving at the time at BS&T Motors. And we made the initiative that a man of his caliber should be granted a duty-free vehicle, compliments of the government. And we made that recommendation. And myself and Johnny, we were able to present it to him when he was named a national hero here in Barbados. And I was so honored to be able to hand him the keys. We sat on several occasions in the office there in Warrens, and we talked along with his chauffeur. This is a man of tremendous integrity, tremendous wit. And of course, I don't even have to say anything about his cricketing capability. It speaks for itself. But the one thing I would like to ask, and please, I'm asking anyone who's watching this show and who has connections with the government of Barbados, even if you're from the government watching the show, I wish to make a strong recommendation. I wish to suggest that a grave site be prepared at the Kensington Oval, the Mecca of the Caribbean cricketing, the Mecca of cricket in the Caribbean, Kensington Oval, for the interment of Sir Garfield Sobers. If it can be done for Sir Frank Worrell at University of the West Indies, at the Frank Worrell facility there, I really believe that it should be done for this great son of the soil, this great man who gained the respect of leaders, not just cricketers, leaders around the world in India, Pakistan, Australia, England, around the world. He gained the respect of men and women around the world, and he put Barbados on the map in a massive manner and in a very respectful manner, and one that even to this day, I have never heard a scandalous in aspect of his life in any way, shape, or form, except, of course, I think it was one thing to do with cricket years ago in South Africa, but that was nothing really. But anyhow, I could be wrong. My memory might have missed where that is concerned. But let me say to you today that he is to be remembered and to be honored and respected. And I would honestly like to recommend to the government and suggest to the government, please do not put him at Coral Ridge. Not that he is not a man of humility and has no problem being among the people, but in honor and respect of the greatest cricketer the world has ever seen, I really believe that he should be placed in Kensington Oval, and there should be a phenomenal memorial established there for him. And I believe that that would become a massive tourist attraction if it were done, where people could actually come and stand in a stadium in the presence of where Sir Garfield Sobers laid. That would be a memorable, sorry, I was going to say memorial, a memorable experience for anyone, even in the game of cricket. So I really would like to recommend that. And I hope that those in government would hear and give it some consideration. But really, he is not deserving, in my opinion, of Coral Ridge. He's deserving of Kensington Oval. He's not even deserving of the roundabout by Sagicor. He's deserving of the Kensington Oval, probably being renamed the Garfield Sobers Oval or something of that nature. And I'm just putting that out there, but I would like to suggest this, please. I would like to suggest this, and I beseech the government to give consideration. The man is a legend, a man that has made Barbados so well known around the world. And I would say, please don't hide him away among all the grave sites at Coral Ridge. Let him stand alone at Kensington Oval. And I pray that this request will prevail upon the ears of some government official, someone in government, and consideration could be given to it. So that's my piece on a take on the matter. Okay, so I believe those might be all the announcements that I'm mindful of. Dave, if I've missed anything, you can just send me a quick message. Yes, what is that I see there from Vihoy? You say, I mean that Coral Ridge is not deserving of him. No, Vihoy, it's not deserving of him. I believe the place that is deserving of him is Kensington Oval. I believe that. I stand by what I believe, and I'm imploring the government to give it some serious consideration. And I take no credit for it. If you do it, own it. I don't have a problem. But it's just that I believe that the stature that he has achieved over the years and what he has done for our country is of a greater honor than Coral Ridge. And Mr. Griffith, please forgive me. We are best of friends, Peter, but on this occasion, no, not Coral Ridge. Put me at Coral Ridge. Okay, put me there, but put Sir Garfield at Kensington Oval. That is my recommendation. Okay, and thank you all for your comments as well. There's somebody saying here, Rosalind Corbin, correction needed. For popular discourse, Barbados only recently became known to the world through Mia Mottley and Rihanna. Dear me. Rosalind, I hear the sarcasm in your voice. But yes, Marva, he is a legend and he's a champion, a true one. And I am not going to make any comments concerning any other national heroes. This man is a national hero. Okay, that is deserving. He is deserving, and I think it would be great to put him there at Kensington and possibly rename the Oval the Sir Garfield Sobers Oval. But that is not critical. But I do believe that he needs to be interred at Kensington Oval. Have the service there and have the interment there and close the thing down and let Sir Gary rest where he has enjoyed. I don't remember him playing a ball at Coral Ridge, but he's played many at Kensington. Let him be deserving of that honor and that respect. Well, now tonight I want to deal with a few things, and I'm going to have some guests joining me in a few moments. And, I want to start out by sharing a couple of biblical verses. And please forgive me. I'm not preaching tonight. And if you think I am, I apologize. It is not my intent to do that. But I do have to make some comments with regards to some things I've seen in the news. And to be honest with you, when I see some of the things that are being espoused, I have to ask some very serious questions concerning a subject and something that I believe people need to really pay attention to. Now, first of all, I want to read a verse, and it's taken from James chapter 1, and I want to read just a couple of verses, so please bear with me. Listen to what the Bible says. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. In other words, to and fro by every wind of doctrine and philosophy or whatever. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord, because a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Now, you may wonder why I would start out my presentation with you tonight and my sharing with you tonight with that verse. As a matter of fact, we can find in the book of Proverbs that one of the most important criteria, or should I say ingredients, that is recommended for the life of an individual is that of wisdom. And I must say that one of the things I have observed within the last, since 2018, and probably even before, but I have paid attention specifically since 2018, more so than any other time, and more specifically since 2025, coming into this year, I have observed that there are many in administration in this country that lack wisdom. It appears that people go to sleep and then overnight come up with an idea to do something and engage it without any due diligence, any consultation, and definitely without any transparency and no accountability whatsoever. As if the only people in the world that have any brains are those that are sitting in a ministerial position in government or at the head of the government of the country. And I'm saying to you, you need wisdom. Wisdom. When God gives Solomon the capacity to ask for anything he desired, anything, he could have asked for wealth, he could have asked for women, he could have asked for anything. Solomon asked for wisdom, and he has gone down in the annals of history as being the wisest man on the planet. And so I want to suggest that if Solomon saw it necessary to acquire wisdom, I want to suggest to the government of Barbados that you are lacking in the component of wisdom and you need to ask for it. Wisdom is an execution of the knowledge you possess in a proper manner and in a wise manner. And clearly, all knowledge does not reside within 30 people sitting in Parliament. I have often said to people that I don't know everything. And if I knew everything, I would be God, and the world, would have a major crisis on its hands. I have said this several times before. Okay, I've said this several times before. I don't have all the knowledge. There isn't a minister in government that has all the knowledge. And the prime minister does not have all the knowledge. Let me assure you of that. And as a result of that, it is important to engage partners and persons operative in areas and in environments and with experience and expertise in order to do things in the interest of the country. I remember the days when my mother, God rest her soul, she was a strong supporter of the Barbados Labour Party. She'd be rolling in her grave now at what is happening where the party is concerned. She was one of the people who recommended and supported Mr. Owen Arthur. She was one of the people who, when they lost government, continued to offer her educational expertise to Mr. Erskine Sandiford. And I remember, in spite of the fact that the DLP government was in office, she offered her abilities and expertise and skills because she was interested in her country and not in a party. Even though she was a strong representative, she sat on the National Executive Council of the Barbados Labour Party. And in spite of that, if you were wrong, my mother would tell you you are wrong. And Ferdinand Nichols is no different to his mother. When you are wrong, I will tell you you are wrong, whether you like it or not. That was what my mother taught me. And I will not be swayed otherwise. Because she possessed something that is sadly lacking among administrators and leaders today. She possessed wisdom. And so I'm encouraging this government to stop and get some wisdom. When I look at the saga surrounding BiMPay, I cannot say anything less or short of a lack of wisdom. Clearly, the strategic partners were not effectively and efficiently engaged. that the central bank governor has to come on several occasions to either make excuses, pass the buck, apologize, or something of the sort. And if you had done your due diligence, you would not have had to have done that. You see, it is because you lack wisdom. It is because of a deficiency of wisdom. Now, this BiMPay saga has been ongoing to the point where people have not been paid because of the lack of synergy between the government, the central bank or whatever, the banks and the people's banks and so on. And you should have had any time. Look, listen, I represented BMW. And anytime BMW launched a product, you can be sure they had months and months and even years of testing in all kinds of environments before that product hit the ground. Give you grant, even when it hit the ground, there were some minor adjustments that had to be made. But what we are seeing here in Barbados at this particular time is not minor. It is major when people cannot get their salaries on time to pay their bills. What are they going to tell the Light and Power? What are they going to tell Flow? What are they going to tell the Water Authority? That BiMPay did not facilitate my getting my salary? It is a disgraceful matter that we are witnessing. And as a matter of fact, you were warned. We have been saying on this show, I have said it, Kemar Stewart has said it, and I have something here from Mr. Stewart I want to read because he deserves to be defended where his contribution has been concerning his contribution he made. But I, on this show, shared with the people of Barbados that the World Economic Forum, I have it right here before me. The World Economic Forum on the 4th of July, 2023, cautioned governments concerning the risks of digital ID and the capability, and I am going to quote from them, there are also risks of marginalization and oppression with ID being used to facilitate the identification, listen to the next word, surveillance and persecution of individuals or groups, the report says. Not my words, the World Economic Forum. Mr. Kemar Stewart challenged the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called him a liar. She called him a liar publicly, nationally, and internationally because it was carried. And in a video recently, Mr. Stewart sought to legitimize what he had said and to put the Prime Minister in an embarrassing position. And I quote, he said, and I quote, I am doing this video to demand an apology from Mia Mottley, PM of Barbados. Trust is earned through honesty, not by discrediting those who ask difficult questions. The damages, distress, hurt, and embarrassment caused to me when you told the entire world in a national address hosted August 2025 that I made false claims when all I said can be proven using your own words and documents was an intentional act of discrediting me. The records must be corrected in regards to her outright denial and vicious verbal attack on me and the video and statement I made on the 12th of August 2025, which highlighted that with the launch of the national payment system, BiMPay, listen, that it will be connected, listen to it, it was connected to the Trident ID, and that financial transactions will be done using the ID, with physical cash transactions being phased out in time for the year 2030 for the fully cashless society. Mr. Stewart was correct, and the World Economic Forum warned concerning the connection between the digital ID and persons' financial matters, that it could be used for identification, surveillance, and persecution of individuals. The report went on to say, and I quote, there is also the problem of consent. Critics of digital ID efforts often object to the possibility of being forced to participate in the program, and this is something that governments exploring digital ID are now straining to address. This was in 2023. The United Kingdom, for example, felt compelled to publish a fact sheet on its own plan to roll out across government login system. And then the UK government also insists that its planned login service is not a digital or physical ID card, but this may be a matter of semantics. The WEF article went on to state that for critics, the WEF's risk assessments offers little assurance. As a system expands, the consequences of not participating in it can become so severe as to make registration effectively unavoidable, the report says. When access to a good or service is conditioned upon the possession of a form of ID, and that ID is widespread, individuals may be effectively coerced into obtaining that form of identification, even if there is no legal basis for requiring it. As the WEF points out, these risk factors can also be found in the traditional ID programs, but the digital ID brings with it certain technological concerns, such as data exploitation. We saw this happen during the pandemic with the Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada, who blocked people's accounts because they protested against his mandates and lockdowns. And now it has made its way to the shores of Barbados. The Prime Minister must apologize to Mr. Stewart. He was correct. The records have to be corrected in regards to her outright denial and vicious verbal attack, he goes on to say, on me. And the video and statement I made on the 12th of August 2025, which highlighted that with the launch of the national payment system, BiMPay, that it will be connected to the Trident ID and that financial transactions will be done using the ID, with physical cash transactions being phased out by the year 2030. This was confirmed through by the Dr. Kevin Greenidge when he said in his press conference on Monday, the 13th of July, that BiMPay will be linked to your ID eventually. They started saying that pinning the digital ID to your account wasn't mandatory, despite that they were coercing people to pin it. And now BiMPay requires a link to your bank account to use the app. Then eventually the ID is linked to the app, which contains your banking information. I will add, he says, your passport will become digital. Your biometric data, meaning your eye and fingerprints, medical records, driver's license, welfare, and NISSS checks. And soon enough, you will hear no card, no service. This is a serious matter, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. All right? Yes, Pedro, that is what she said. Put up or shut up. That's what she told Mr. Stewart. But we now know straight from the horse's mouth, Mr. Kevin Greenidge, Dr. Kevin Greenidge. We now know that Barbados has entered into this position that the WEF warned could be used and abused by governments. And I'm calling on any of you, all of you, to resist it. If they want BiMPay, go and set it up yourself. And listen, that's not the only thing that Mr. Stewart indicated. He also indicated the connection between BiMPay, Barbados, and Africa. That was what he also was able to show, the connection. Quoting the legislation brought by the PM then led to her launching a verbal torpedo attack on me and saying that my claims about the BiMPay and the ID are utterly false. Today, the truth repairs my reputation. And so, Mia, please come and correct the record and damages, distress, hurt, and embarrassment caused to me when you told the entire world that I made false claims, when all I said can be proven using your own words and your documents. I remember a particular minister, don't recall his name, when he had a responsibility of overseeing the Trident ID card, committing himself to this country and telling this country that it would not be used for tracking people. What a liar. And straight talk, liar. Almost tempted to say liar, liar, pants on fire. But that is what he said. Mr. Stewart goes on to say, and I quote, to remind the PM that attempts were made by you and the Minister of Science, Technology, Marcia Cattle, to phase out the old ID card. And after he and this show and Mr. Caswell Franklin threatened a lawsuit, they pulled back on it. He went on to say, my economic research is some of the best on the island, better than half your cabinet. And every time, PN, you tried to test my economic skills, you fell flat on your face. I need that apology because since you launched your missiles at me, I have experienced significant loss of income and even volunteer work I'm being railroaded and blocked from. Now, this is a son of the soil. This is one of ours. But you can fly down in Ethiopia. I made a note of it, you know. You can fly down in Ethiopia. And in a speech to African countries, in Ethiopia, you have the intestinal fortitude to talk rubbish about moral, some moral responsibility or something of that nature. That's why I started with the biblical verse in James chapter 1. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. That's the problem we have. Now, the question is, where does Barbados go from here? It has certainly affected public confidence because everywhere I turn in this country, and I mean everywhere I turn, people are telling me straight, I am not logging on to BiMPay. I logged on to my bank. My bank has something called First Pay. I use it, and I am not going to be having BiMPay anywhere around me. I also am not going to be having a Trident ID card. You know why? Because the most powerful form of identification, and I challenge anybody to deny me access to any service in this country when I present it, and that is my Barbados passport. That is going to be more powerful than any Trident ID card. I want to see who's going to deny me anything in this country when I present to you my Barbados passport. I see that arrangements have been made for us to fly between Barbados and Guyana using a Barbados ID. I do not recall, and I stand to be corrected, and any of you on the show can correct me tonight, but I did not recall hearing the Prime Minister say the Trident ID. I heard you can travel and present a Barbados ID. I have a Barbados ID card, but I am traveling with my passport. My passport is the most powerful identifier of me and my country. And it offers greater security for me than any ID card. I am sorry. My passport under the Charter of Human Rights, go and look it up. Go and look it up. My passport is an international matter. My Trident ID card is not. So I'm not interested in it. I'm not getting one. And if I got one, and I'm pinning it. And I'm not going to be getting one. And let them coerce me. Let them coerce me and tell me I can't get no services without it. And let me see what the High Court in Barbados will have to say when I present my Barbados passport and you tell me I can't get these services when I identify who I am. That's what an ID card is supposed to do, to confirm that you are who you are saying you are supposed to be. You don't need any of my information. It's as ridiculous as a driver's license I had to renew the other day for someone, and the person was overseas. And the foolishness that I was told about having to return the expired card before they can get the new card, as if anything on the card going to change. Totally ridiculous. Why? It's like this country wants to be in the 21st century, but we still operating on 19th century policy and principles. And I understand digitization, you know. I'm not foolish. I may be a Christian, but I ain't stupid. Because people think that because you're a Christian and you're a minister, you're stupid. I know a lot of what's going on in the world. I know what's happening between China and Iran. I know that China is going to be looking to provide nuclear weapons to Iran if Iran cannot produce nuclear weapons. I know that. You may not know that, but I know it. I'm not going to be getting into any of those geopolitics right now in this show. No. So don't try to drag me into anything. All right, whatever you do. But the Prime Minister owes Mr. Stewart an apology. She owes the country an apology, not just Mr. Stewart, because the central bank governor has confirmed a connection between your Trident ID and BiMPay. And BiMPay is connected to your bank account. And at last I checked, banks are supposed to keep your information private and confidential. It should not be accessible by anyone. And I am going to seek legal advice with regards to that if anybody accesses my banking information without my consent, what legal positions I have to deal with that person. And I encourage all of you to do likewise. This is not a joke. Ask the Canadians if it was a joke when Trudeau blocked them from getting food for their babies and their children, blocked the men who were in the protest drive from getting fuel, couldn't use their bank cards, their credit cards or debit cards. Excuse me. And I going to accept that in Barbados? We're not stupid, ma'am. We're not stupid, Mr. Strawn. We're not stupid, Barbados Labour Party. We're not. We are very intelligent people in this country. Barbados carries a 99% rating of intelligentsia in the world. We're not foolish. We're not foolish. All right, so let's get this very clear. Now this brings me, I must say, I think I will stop on that for now, because I think we've said enough. We have told you, we have warned you. I have read from the World Economic Forum paper dated July the 4th, 2023, from the World Economic Forum, from the idtechwear.com, where the World Economic Forum paper outlines significant risks of digital ID. And we told you, told all of you, we told the country, but you all prefer to listen to liars and I almost tempted to say lunatics, but liars and people who are unwise and strangers to the truth, who are deceitful in their functions and attitudes, who say one thing and do another, who talk about transparency and then deny the very existence of it, who deny Barbadians the right for freedom of association by implementing legislation that if you do not comply with what I want, you will have to go back to the electorate. Who in the name of God do you think you are? You know, there was a lot of biblical kings who had that kind of attitude, you know. And madam, you need to read the book of Genesis to Malachi and find out what happened with those guys. A lot of them did not survive, who thought that they could abuse the people and God would pay no attention. But he does, and he did, and he does, and he did, sorry. And I read, he doesn't sleep and he doesn't slumber. And as far as I know, he is our guide. And with him on the people's side, ma'am, listen, we have no doubts or fears. Well, let me move on to one other subject I want to touch on tonight. And I'm also waiting for one of my guests to join, because I know they're going to have quite a bit to say, not just about what I'm about to touch on, but about this BiMPay matter. Now, I am no expert economist. I am no expert financial advisor. I am no expert financial guru, but I listen to them. I have learned to listen to people who know more than I do. I've learned that. I've learned to listen to people who live in the back of Eagle Hall, as well as I've listened to people who live in Royal Westmoreland or in Sandy Lane. Because I was raised by a mother who taught me that all men are equal in the sight of God. That is what I was taught. No man is greater than another. But this brings me to my next subject, or the next subject for tonight. And it has to do with visa-free entry from African nations. And I am awaiting one of my guests to come in with me on this. And I want to connect this with a speech by the Prime Minister made in Ethiopia. She did a speech in Ethiopia, I believe 9 days ago today. A very eloquent speech. Don't let me take that away from her. I know how many of you all feel. But a very eloquent speech, very charismatic, delivered with passion. But as I listened, you know, I'm going to confess this. As I listened to her speech, the first thing that came to my mind was James chapter 1, verse 5. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. Now, in that speech, she sought to fully embrace all of the countries of Africa as our brothers and sisters, bringing us all together to stand against the colonial oppressors of the 21st century, so that we can stand together. I have the transcript of the speech, you know. I mean, it ain't hard when you go on YouTube. You can find the transcript of any speech you want. She made this comment. Or let me back it up a little bit. She said, and I quote, "But we must ask ourselves, why does it elude us?" That is, this has been a message not given by our generation, no, but by previous generations of Africa and the Caribbean that is coming together. Some spirit of Adwa, she talks about, demands of us that we recognize that even in the face of the greatest technology being forced upon us, that we can rise and win if we act in unity. This has been a message not given by our generation alone, but by previous generations of African and Caribbean leaders. But we ask ourselves, why does it elude us? And the answer comes not from outside, but only from within. When I speak of the USA with affection, I do not only want to speak of that which is known in the Americas. I want to speak about that which ought to have been possible if the 1884 Berlin talks did not take place. Now, listen, she says, when I speak of America with affection, all right? The possibility of the United States of Africa, which is as diverse as India, which is as diverse as China in terms of ethnicity and language and religion, I would dare say probably more diverse. Because in India, you have one country, but in Africa, Africa is a continent with several countries. Okay? All right. In ethnicity and language and religion, but which is entirely possible if we see not ourselves first, but we see the unity of ourselves together. This may be the cry. This may be the cry of a naive and romantic daughter of Africa. But if that is the case, I prefer to die being a naive and romantic daughter of Africa than one who is cynical and one who is daunted by the actions and power of others. We know what it is to stand in unity with you to fight apartheid and to fight for the liberation of the peoples of Africa. A powerful speech, I'm told, given with much charisma. Okay? But I saw a couple of things that stirred me. And that is a reference. Let me make sure. I don't want to quote the lady wrong. So let me make sure I get it. That's why I'm looking here. She said, and I quote, "Those who lead today," listen to it, "have a moral imperative, not just to our citizens in our own countries, but above all else, to unity." Stick a pin. Madam, if it is a moral imperative that you have, not just our citizens, it says that you have a moral imperative to your citizens. I want to define the word moral because I don't know what the word means to people, because it seems to mean different things to different people at different times. I don't know what it means to the madam. Okay? But I am going to seek to get a definition of moral. That is what I am going to seek, because I do not want to mislead anyone into thinking that moral is by some definition my definition. So I want to read what is the definition of moral. Moral's definition are personal or cultural principles and values that guide a person's behavior, helping them tell the difference between right and wrong. Was it right to attempt to introduce a cybercrime bill that would silence the voices of opposition voices and opponents to an administration? Was that right? Was it right to introduce legislation in Parliament that prohibited the crossing of the floor of a person who disagreed and who came to a point where their philosophical outlook or their views on things differed from that of the political party that they are a part of, and decided they were going to step out of that party? Was that right? And we can go on. I can go on with a number of different things, because you see, when you speak of a moral imperative, you can't talk of a moral imperative to the people in Africa, and you can't even demonstrate morality to the people in Barbados. But you see, the people in Barbados know you. The people in Africa do not. I know you know. If you were to ask anybody who knows me outside of my family, they'll probably tell you I'm a wonderful person. But if you want to find out what I really am like, talk to my family. Talk to my grandchildren, my children, my wife. Talk to them and see if what you are hearing out there or what you may be thinking out there is the same thing that they are seeing and hearing in here. And you might be in for a surprise. I might not be as nice as you think. But you see, that's the problem we have. That's why I started with the night saying, if any lack wisdom. So you get up in Ethiopia and you give a big speech, fancy speech. And I listen, let's be respectful. The lady is very articulate and she can speak on a flight. Doesn't need notes. She's very intelligent. She's very informed. Clearly, she's a reader. Has been a reader. She seems to have a lot of knowledge. But what does this speech mean to Barbados as it relates to the government's vision for Barbados and Africa relations? I'm going to tell you one of my major concerns. And this has to do with the aspect of the address made, the implications of that address, and the visa-free entry from African nations into Barbados. Now, some of you may not like me for what I'm about to say, but there are elements in Africa we do not need in Barbados, and we do not want in Barbados. ISIS, a terrorist organization, has roots in Africa. There are several other terrorist organizations that have roots in Africa. Look at what's happening in Nigeria with the Muslim jihadist fanatics who are slaughtering Christians in Nigeria. Look at them attacking schools and killing children and kidnapping children. And you are going to open our borders so that anybody from Africa wants to come from an African country that can walk into Barbados easy, no problem. Whereas if you had a visa requirement in place, they would have to provide specific evidence in order to have a visa to come to Barbados. And to require a visa to come to Barbados is nothing that we should be embarrassed to require of Africa. For years, America has required a visa for everybody, including Barbadians, to go into America. Has it stopped us from going into America? No. As long as you can prove to the United States government that you can financially support yourself for the time that you are there, that you are not affiliated or associated with any form of grouping that could be detrimental to the well-being of people in the United States, as long as you can prove that you're not going to attempt to get a job there and you have a job where you're coming from, so they know that you have ties in your country where you are coming from. And I have had a visa, U.S. visa, for donkey years. I have never been denied a U.S. visa, and I go in and out of the United States. In and out. I've never been denied entry. As a matter of fact, more often than not, when I go in, I get 6-month stays. And I have never overstayed my time in the United States. So to require a visa coming from Africa to Barbados ought not to be a restriction for good relationships between Barbados and African countries. But we don't know. And I don't mind First Wizard who is funding them, whether it be the US, the UK, China, Iran, Iraq, or whoever. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. I don't care who's funding them. What I care about is that they have elements that can access this country that are not in the best interest of Barbados. And this ought to be a cause for concern when it comes to the security of our nation. We are already dealing with a pandemic of violence, a pandemic that we are seeing of mass shooting. We have never seen people drive by in Barbados and shooting up everybody, trying to get one person and a whole set of people being injured. And we have to address this. And you're going to open the doors of the country for persons to enter the country we know nothing about. Do Barbadians have free access to every single African country we can fly in there and fly? I see Trevor's asking the question. Can Barbadians fly all over Africa visa free? If not, what is it that we are giving away? Given all the fancy Pan-African talk, shouldn't it be the opposite way around? But you are the leader of our country, ma'am, and your primary responsibility to the people of this country is their security and their safety. This is not a joke. This is not a partisan matter. This is a matter of national security and national interests. This is not about the BLP or the DLP. This is about Barbados. This is about the infiltration of cultures that will undermine. And you have the audacity to stand up and talk in the defense of protecting the culture of Barbados. I am not against people coming from Africa. Don't get me wrong. I am not a master slave serving in the house. I am connected with several people in Africa, with princes and princesses and kings. I was offered a position of king in Africa as a result of my contribution over the last several years, online tutoring and teaching. I was offered to arrive in Africa and be given a position as an honorary king in Africa. So I am not against this. What I am against is opening the doors from countries that are known to have terrorists in them, that are known for violent reactions and responses, that are known for Islamic jihadist movements and whatnot in their countries. And I am going to say this, just in case somebody thinks that I'm anti-Islam. I am not. Everybody is entitled to their religious and non-religious opinions and views. But this I will say. I will challenge the Muslim community in this country to sever all associations from the fanatical jihadist movements in the Middle East and that are coming across to the West. I will challenge them to be people who will represent only the religious Islamic positions that their religion teaches. It is supposed to be a religion of peace. That's the last thing we see coming out of Islamic territories, some of them, because Saudi Arabia is not like that. Kuwait is not like that. Abu Dhabi is not like that. But there are some African countries where militant jihadists exist, and we don't know who they are. Flying in here, no visa, buy a ticket, gotta got the money. They got the money to bring in guns or buy guns or whatever it is and hold this country hostage. This is a reality. If you think I'm lying, you better wake up and smell the coffee. This is going on in Africa. Do read your international news from certain people. Okay, you got some that are liars too, and they have some that are purely propagandists. But this is a reality in Africa. We can't deny the tribal warfare of Africa. You can't deny that. It was one of the things that contributed to the slave trade, the tribal conflicts in Africa. And I don't have the time to get into that. And I know there are people who feel strongly about it, but that's a reality. And we open up our borders. Why you don't open up the borders to Iran and Iraq and Lebanon and all them countries too? Why don't open up the borders to them? Huh? And Venezuela, just open the borders and let the people come in as they like. But that is not protecting the sovereignty of our country. And a prime minister, a leader of a country, a leader of a government is obligated to ensure that her people and his people can live in safety and security. And if there are questions that are raised as I am raising them tonight, then you should pay attention, look into it, and see if what I am saying has any merit. And if it has merit, put the mechanisms in place. Put them in place. You know, there are times I sit down, and I remember the other day I looked at my wife and I said to her, I can run for prime minister of the country, because nobody can do worse than what's happening now. I should run for prime minister because at least I think I have the interests of my country at heart. That's why I dedicate my life to the ministry. I have the interests of my country and my people at heart. I don't want to see young men and young women being gunned down on the streets. I don't want to see people walking into supermarkets and having to put back basic things because they can't afford to pay for it, while the high and mighty all over the country breaking ground and making millions of dollars while the poor people in this country are suffering. and you borrowing billions and billions of dollars, can't fix roads that are costing the ordinary Bajan thousands of dollars every month in tire repairs and suspension repairs in their vehicles. You can't drive the roads of this country without bopping and weaving and endangering your life because you can bob off a pothole and go into the other lane and run the risk of hitting a vehicle that's coming at you. And this has been an administration that ran on the premise of transparency and accountability. And now they're in office, there's no transparency, and they don't feel they have to give an account to Tom, Dick, nor Harry. And we got a bunch of Christians and a bunch of church people who want to sit down idly. Listen, you believers, you Christian, so-called Christian people, better wake up and realize that according to the scripture, God says righteousness and justice are the foundations of his throne. And if they're the foundations of his throne, then it is incumbent upon us as the believers in Jesus Christ to stand up for what is right and to stand up for what is just. You have no excuse. There's no separation. I don't believe in it. No separation between church and state. You know why I don't believe in it? Because the church is about people and the state is about people. You can't separate those two things. The church has a responsibility to keep any government on its toes. That's what we should be doing, to ensure that the people of the country are not abused and taken advantage of. And if we find it, we should confront them. Just like Jesus called Herod the old fox. Tell that old fox for me. That would have been an insult back in his day. But we have a church in this country that is asleep at the wheel. I am not asleep at my wheel. I can assure you of that. And I am not so naive as to take my faith and stick it up in heaven. My faith has to operate down here on earth where I encounter people on a daily basis who are suffering and who cannot put their children through school properly, pay their bills, put food on their table, and you jet setting all over the world in private jets spewing more carbon than any of us could be spewing from our cars, talking about climate resilience, climate change, and climate crisis. Hypocrite is what we would call you in church circles. We have church leaders that would kiss the ground the Prime Minister walks on. I know some of them, but I'm not kissing the ground that none of them walk on. I kiss the ground for one person and one person alone, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't kiss the ground for another man. I don't bow for another man. I don't back down for another man. And I've often told people, don't cross swords with me because you have no idea who's backing me up. And I mean it. You don't know what angel I have that's going to appear here. So be careful how you're coming around me. If you have evil intent, be careful. It could cost you your life. Because when Abraham and Sarah were visited by the angels who were telling them that they was going to have a son. He was 99, I think, and she was 90. She went to cook food for the angels because she thought they were men, and it turned out they were angels. I know about it. My wife and I have had our own encounters. We thought they were men too, but they came in at a most critical time in our marriage, in our relationship. And had it not been for them, I may be singing a different song tonight. But thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. And I want all of you to know that God loves this country and God is interested in this country. He wants to see this nation prosper. But there are things that he's observing in this country that are angering him. And all I have been praying is, Lord, don't let this nation suffer because of the stupidity and ignorance of one or two people. Because that's what used to happen. When one person mess up, the whole nation used to suffer. And all I've been asking God is to be merciful to my country. To be merciful to the innocent people in this nation who are not responsible for the stupidity and ignorance of leadership. People who get in and pontificate like they know everything and plan like they're God. and just don't have no wisdom. How could you be considered a wise individual? You only want to impress the people you're talking to, make them think, oh my God, what a speech. Woo, what a person. My Lord, what a woman. And that's what you hear all over the world. Even some of these stupid ones here in Barbados who will only know her out there can't admit to the mess that this country is currently in. We are in more debt than this nation has ever seen. And I am challenging the government to show me the results of the debt that we are in. Because normally when you go into debt, you see results. We are over nearly $500 million US in debt for road repairs and refurbishment of roads and highways. Tell me how many you've seen. Tell me. Carifesta was a financial fiasco, an embarrassment, with no proper accountability, no proper accounting. I have talked with some people involved in accounting, and they're bamboozled by the stupidity and ignorance they've seen where Carifesta is concerned. And I know people who have not up to now been paid. And I saw recently somebody speaking to the matter of not having received payment from government in spite of the millions and billions of dollars they borrowed. Where's the money gone? Give an account for it. We are your employer. You are the employee. Give an account of what you have done with all the money you have borrowed. And don't come with no fancy talking, no budgetary speech to talk crap. I want to know, we borrowed this, how much it was, what was spent, who was paid, what contracts were completed. I want to know. And I have a right to know because I pay taxes in this country. Don't tell me I don't. Every time I pull up at the gas station pump and put in fuel, I pay taxes. And out to $80 million a month, nearly $1 billion a year, I'm sure that is nothing more than what was collected at the Barbados Licensing Authority when you used to have to register your car up there. I'm sure of that. And then you have the audacity to talk foolishness to a company in Barbados because it made a profit last year. And you want to tell the Barbadian public that the country has, the company has no right making that kind of profit. The company did not get into business to be a charity. That is the church's business. They got into business to make profit for their investors. That's what they got into business to do. And I mentioned it already on this show. I had the statistical information back in 2010 when the Prime Minister, then leader of the opposition, opposed the increase in VAT. And I said on this broadcast, on this program, on the Friday night, if you want to set an example and you expect the private sector to cut their profits, then reduce your VAT. I said that. I said that. Yes, Corrine. I respect Canon John Rogers, who got up in the Senate and spoke out against a lot of the nonsense going on. Where are the voices of the evangelical, Holy Ghost, Spirit-filled men and women of God who are supposed to be hearing from God and prophesying? And mind you, I don't take prophecies lightly. I believe in it, and it's a very serious matter when you open your mouth to speak for God. I am very careful when I do it. And if I do it, I always say, I believe the Lord is saying, because the Lord is never wrong, but Ferdinand Nichols can be. Cost of living in this country is skyrocketing through the roof. I am not saying they don't have some unscrupulous businessmen in this country. They do. Don't get me wrong. Okay? I know some of them. I know some of them were part of a contingency that went to Brazil and arranged with the Brazilian suppliers to purchase food for Barbados. And I know the prices of food in Brazil. And I know that prices on supermarket shelves in Massy and even in Popular could be lower. But when you have a parent company purchasing for certain companies in Miami and then selling to the company in Barbados, making a double profit, I would address that as the Prime Minister if I was sitting in that role. I would call them into my office and sit down and tell them straight what the bottom line is. I am not going to come to the public and embarrass people. That is not what leaders do. I don't stand up in my pulpit and let the church know a problem going on between Susie and Tom, husband and wife. I pull them into my office, tell them I've heard so and so and so and so, such and such is the case or whatever, and we sit down and we work it out and we arrange for counsel and all these different kinds of things. I don't get up in the church and expose them. But you can get up and you can't take back the words, you know. I remember an old preacher told me one day that when people get up and talk and gossip, it's like taking a pillow with feathers on top of the hill and bursting it open and then trying to collect all the feathers. You can never pull it back, man. You can never pull it back. And I have sat here in my office area, and I have said on more than one occasion, it is not that we do not like the Prime Minister or we hate the Prime Minister. I can't hate Mia Mottley. Otherwise, I have no entry to heaven, and I am not letting anybody, including her, deny me entry into heaven. It's not going to happen. But I have a responsibility and I have a right as a citizen of this country to call you out when you're doing things that are not in the best interest of my country. You fly all over the world talking about climate resilience, and then you are going to engage the exploration of oil off the shores of Barbados. I have no problems with that, but shut your mouth concerning climate resilience and climate crisis. Because when that oil comes up out of the seabed, what are you going to do with it? You're going to collect it all and sit down at Ilara Court with it and say, wow, look at all the oil we have. Wow, wow, wow. That's what you're going to do? I don't think so. Are you going to use it to supplement the energy in Barbados? I don't see how you can, given that you are committed to energy shifts and energy supply shifts. Don't see. Are you going to sell it to other countries? I don't see how you can do that and fly around the world talking about climate resilience and climate crisis and climate this and climate that. And I have my own position on this climate matter because I don't follow conspiracy theories. I follow science. And scientists don't even agree on this matter. And there's a fact. This is a global agenda to push people into a particular position. And if you doubt me, do your own research. Look at what is being told to us by the members sitting in the World Economic Forum. I wish I had the time, and I'm sorry I didn't send Dave some videos for you all to watch as they sit in their chairs on the stage at the World Economic Forum, and they talk about how they're going to restructure the world and the economies and how people will not be able to drive more than 15 minutes from their home and how cows pass air that is affecting the global climate and all this rubbish. How we are going to become carbon neutral and talking about all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and how it's this and how it's that, and still denying or not acknowledging all the let me get my words right. All the geoengineering going on with the weather. Asked the minister in what country it was, in Saudi Arabia or what, Dubai or somewhere like that, where they had massive floods. One, I think it was last year before, and then the very next week he admitted to seeding the clouds. But I don't hear anybody talking about geoengineering the weather. Not a man. The only person I hear talking about it is the governor of Florida, who said, don't bring it over Florida. And please don't tell me, thank you, Dubai, please don't tell me that Mr. DeSantis is a conspiracy theorist. And I have listened to the testimonies before Congress and Senate of people speaking about the matter of weather interference. This is not a joke. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is a fact. But we have politicians. Notice politicians. You know, the other day I was having a discussion with someone concerning the pandemic. And I said to them, I wish the politicians would stay out of medicine and science and let the people who know about it do what they ought to do. But politicians always stick in the face and stick in the mouth and stick in the noses in things that they know nothing about. And they're doing it purely for the perspective of money. And I've always been told, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. And we won't play games. Thank you, Vihoy. Weather interference happened during the Vietnamese War. I know you got your facts. And I'm sure if I asked you, you'll be able to prove that. But if it was happening as far back as then, and they had the technology like we have today, you can bet it happening now. And it's happening even more. I don't even want to begin to talk about Melissa, because CNN and NBC, MSNBC, and all them ain't going to share the news. You may think so, Gilbert Perry, but he's got more sense than some of our people down here. Let me tell you that right now. Governor DeSantis is a very, very intelligent gentleman. Some of us down here in the Caribbean can learn a few things from him, so be careful. If you don't know a man, you don't follow him, and you don't follow what he does, don't criticize him. There got a lot of us that like to open our mouths and criticize people and don't know nothing about them and don't know anything about what they're doing. And you have to be very careful. The word of God tells you, judge not, lest you be judged, for by the merit you judge, and you will be judged back. It doesn't say you can't judge. It says by the merit you use to judge, you are going to be judged. So be careful. I am very careful when I speak concerning matters to do with people. Very careful, because I make sure that my analysis and my view comes from the word of God, and I make my position clear on the matter. Very clear. I've spoken quite highly of the Prime Minister tonight. Yes, Peter, he did. Fred Corbyn spoken about this a lot. And he spoke about the pandemic a lot, and he was correct. And he's now being proven to be correct. There are people indeed that can create earthquakes. They can cause earthquakes. You all like you don't know what's going on in this world, you know. There are a lot of you watching this here from different countries that are not paying attention to what is happening globally. And you're wondering why what is going on in your country, why that is happening. And you fail, you refuse to accept the position or refuse to see the perspective of a global agenda. When you have people like Charles Schwab and Bill Gates standing up in the World Economic Forum and pontificating as though they run countries and run governments and not a man in elect them. That woman that heads the European Union, that the people in the European Union are revolting against. Can't remember her name. Somebody put it in the chat for me, for God's sake. Put it in there, because I don't even know her name, because I've never engaged anyone as vile and wicked as that lady. And I called them out. God called them out in the past, and I'm calling them out now. Calling them out now. You see that? We frightened. We frightened to call people out. I am calling on Barbadians to cast aside the fright, the fear, and stand up as a people and speak. If you don't speak now, who's going to speak for your children and your children's children and your great-great-grandchildren? Who's going to speak for them? Who's going to speak for them? Huh? I was just looking for a poem by Pastor Martin Niemöller. I hope I have his name correct. Because we don't speak. And the poem goes like this. And I know you all know it. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the DLP, and I did not speak out because I was not a member of the DLP. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me. Thank you, Ursula von der Something. You're absolutely correct, Rescue Ben. Thank you. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. That's why we have to talk now. That's why the government's feet have to be held to the fire. That's why Ryan Straughan's disrespectful comments concerning Mr. Anthony Wood and the other gentleman whose name I continuously forget, two professors of economics at the University of the West Indies who taught that man himself, disingenuously speaking to them as though he is their father. No, I don't need to do any homework on all being promoted in Florida. I know a lot about it being promoted in Florida, good and bad. But I am one who likes to deal with both. I don't just like to come down his side of bad. I tell you all, stop all that conversation on the chat. That don't mean a thing. Okay? Bring the evidence. Bring the evidence. I have said things and I have brought my evidence. Kimar brought his. Bring your evidence. There are a lot of people who like to talk and like to say people are this and people are the next, and people think because their position, you like their position. Yes, Dr. Troy Lord, thank you, Simple Patriarch, thank you. And there's another one whose name begins with M, and I'm sure Simple Patriarch, you remember that one. We like to talk about a lot of things. People are racist, people are fascist, people are this, people are the next. I can call the fella in New York a communist because he got up and he said it with his own mouth. I can call him a communist, and I can see the Islamic jihadist global agenda. I can talk about that because I have the manual for it. I got a manual for it. But then you see, you have to be very good. Michael Howard, thank you, Michael Howard. Yes, Michael Howard. And you're going to attempt to insult these intellectual, brilliant men when it comes to economics. People don't like to hear the truth. That's a fact. People don't like to hear the truth, and as soon as you start to speak the truth, they adopt the same position they did in the Old Testament. They slay the prophet, and they paying attention to what the prophet had to say, but they killed the messenger thinking they were going to kill the message. But I see my good friend is in my back room, and I am not going to delay to bring him in because I've been waiting for my wonderful colleague and my friend to come in. Thank you, Cami. Michael Howard. Good evening, Apostle Scantlebury.
Good evening, sir. And how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well, thank you. I'm not sure how some other folk are going to be doing, but that is not of a problem of mine. It's good to see you, looking as a dapper. I think the word is dapper as always. I love these. Well, listen. I'm going to start coming in on a Friday night dressed like that, Marco. You look so smart. I have to commend you, man. You're always so sharp. Always so sharp. But listen, welcome. I don't know if you've been able to follow any of the show, but I am going to give you an opportunity just to give you greetings, and then together we can start to explore some of the things as we move toward the closing segments of this thing. Because I want to hear your take on a few areas. So let me give you the chance first to say good night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, listen, it's good night to you, and good night to the loyal opposition, and to all the viewers of the Marcia Weekes Show. I want to say good night to all of you. Great to be with you again tonight, Rev. This is an amazing opportunity. Of course, I'm quite in the middle of a number of things that's happening at the moment, but I wanted to take the time out to be with you guys on tonight. Missed last week due to an emergency situation, but I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'll be listening. I see that you're on fire already, and I just want to go down the road with you tonight, Rev. So let's make this happen.
I tell you, Apostle, I missed last Friday as well. It was our 44th wedding anniversary. Myself and my wife, July the 17th.
Happy anniversary to you and your wife.
Thank you so very much. So we both missed last Friday night, both for good reasons.
Yes, sir.
But we're here tonight, and as you probably have heard, I've been touching on a number of areas, but I want to give you the opportunity. I can back up, and maybe I can back up in the reverse to how I would have come down. And let's look together at this matter to do with the Prime Minister's speech in Ethiopia, which I think would have been, you would have caught some wind of that, and how that speech relates to our security in Barbados and the matter of visa-free entry for African nations. And then maybe if we have a little time left at the end, based on what you're sharing with us, we can take a look at this matter to do with BiMPay.
Yes, sir. Well, let me just jump right on to this whole issue of this visa-free element here in Barbados. I think you're dealing with
just let me cross it quickly for one more. I'm getting a bit of an echo from you. I'm not sure if it could be the room that you're in. It could be. Yes. But just letting you know that if there's anything you can do that can clean that up, fine. If you can't, well, we'll just have to go right ahead.
Okay. I'll do my best to try to get that rectified. But I do want to talk about the whole issue of visa-free entry into Barbados. I was in England last year, and I went to have my book launch at the London Book Fair, and I was
congratulations! Wonderful.
And what was striking is that this time to go to London, I had to pretty much purchase a visa, £65. So you're telling me that this administration, with all of the brilliant people that they have, and all of the brilliant people that they themselves claim to be, do not recognize the kind of revenue that Barbados can have in terms of a minimum visa cost for persons coming into Barbados. Now, that visa that I purchased to go into England is going to last for 2 years. So it's going to expire next year. So I'm saying if England, this very same country that they're trying to get reparations from, whose population is way less in comparison to Africa, that you are going to allow the African continent visa-free entry into Barbados. Rev, it is absolute stupidity. I cannot believe that this administration would sit down and come up with an idea like that. It tells me that there's something else that is on the line here, where the relationship between Barbados and Africa is concerned. Because you cannot think that on this level, this administration would even consider bringing persons into Barbados visa-free. Now, to add to the whole scheme of things, we recently had a situation where a lady came into Barbados on that flight, that Air Peace flight, and we found out that she came here with no work permit, no medicals, but on a promise that you can find a better life in Barbados with no visa. Come into Barbados with no money. How do you pass security? How do you pass immigration in Barbados with no money, with nothing? How do you end up at a hotel? Who brought you to Barbados? And you're seeing the kinds of persons that could possibly come into Barbados with literally nothing at all, hoping for employment in Barbados. And we've seen the ads on social media where people are peddling Barbados as a destination for you to fly free and a destination for you to, have your children in Barbados and get access to a Barbadian passport. You've seen all of this. So we're now realizing that with all of the expertise and all of this grandeur and this oratory skill that we're seeing, the root behind it is very silly, man. It is absolutely absurd to have an administration like the Mia Mottley administration talk like this on the international scale and peddle Barbados as a free destination for African citizens. It's crazy, right? I cannot believe that we even have people here in Barbados, educated persons who refuse to let her know that Barbados belongs to Barbadians first of all. And we are not going to let you walk around and flail around and pet.
But I seem to have lost connection there with Apostle Scantlebury. So we'll give him a chance to come back in. Give him that chance to reconnect with us. Unless, of course, there's some interference going on, which I would not be surprised with at all, because
the legislative side of government or the judicial side of
Apostle, sorry to interrupt you, but we lost you. We lost you for a few minutes just now, a few seconds there.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to repeat what you said a few minutes ago, because you went off at that time.
Okay, sorry about that. So what I was saying is that we need to let this administration know that we are not going to allow you to peddle Barbados as a free destination for everybody, because you cannot even properly support your own people. As far as the economics, the people are crying out for the high cost of living, crying out for the poor standards in medical care here in the island. And then you go on an international scale and you peddle Barbados in the African diaspora, that you are all free to come to Barbados visa free. Somebody in Barbados has to stand up to Mia Mottley and all of these individuals who believe that Barbados, they can take Barbados, give it to whoever they feel like giving it to, and we, the people of Barbados, we can't say anything about it. But this is a very high level of stupidity, with, and like somebody in the executive branch, the legislator, the judiciary, somebody has to open their mouth and let Mia Mottley know, we are not going to let you do this to Barbados and to Barbadians. This place must firstly be capable of supplying its own people with the kind of life that they deserve. And we will not let all kinds of folk enter into Barbados and live free of Barbados. And then the people of Barbados, we have to suffer and beg and hope that this administration, or any government for that matter, would decide to give us a fair shot at living in our country. So my take on this whole visa-free entry into Barbados is, again, more proof that this administration does not know what it's doing.
Well, you know, Apostle, I started tonight with a verse from James chapter 1, verse 5. I'm sure it's a verse that you know very, very, very well.
Yes, sir.
Okay? I am sure you do. I usually always go to the book to ensure that I do not quote it incorrectly and that I quote it correctly.
Yes, sir.
Because, you know, there's some people who will challenge you on things that you say if you don't produce the evidence.
Yes, sir.
So I produced the evidence this evening, and I went to James chapter 1, verse 5. And I'm reading from the New King James Version.
Okay.
If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. Because
Yes,
I cannot add any other analysis to some of the stupidity I see this administration engaging in, other than a lack of wisdom.
My God.
Because you're talking about visa-free entry from an economic standpoint, yes. From a financial standpoint, yes. From a job standpoint, yes. But then you get up in Ethiopia and you open your arms. I can't remember how many countries of Africa there are. No, 50-something, I think it is, but I can check while you're checking. About 52 or something like that. And you're going to open up your arms to all these Islamic jihadists, all these ISIS supporters, all these terrorists that mean ill for the rest of the world. They couldn't care whether you're from Barbados, St. Lucia, Antigua, United States, Canada, Mexico, don't care. You are not Islamic. And I said tonight, with all due respect to Islam and to the Muslims, if the Barbadian Muslims don't come out and speak out against them, then I have to believe that you're part of the problem.
Right.
Which means that you would be supportive of any of those people who are militant terrorists under the name of Islam, which is supposed to be a religion of peace. Okay? And you come into the country, you open up our doors so that anybody, because when you have to go for visa, as you would have had to have done, you would have had to show certain criteria. One, something to do with a job in Barbados to ensure you coming back. Two, to ensure you have enough finances to support you during the time that you are there, so you wouldn't be seeking a job. Three, to do with any nefarious activity or anything of that nature, involved in any drug activity or anything at all. You had to provide substantive evidence that you are only visiting for holiday or whatever it is you're doing, and you'll be returning.
Correct.
And that does not restrict the access per se to any legitimate person traveling to the United Kingdom or the United States, for that matter.
There you go.
So why can't it be done, given the militant activity prevalent in Africa? I don't care whether we want to be African supportive or not. You can't deny the militant, horrific, genocidal activity of some of the people in Africa. You can't ignore it. You can't wish it away. It has happened. We saw it in Rwanda, and we saw it in African against African. This is not African against European. This is African against African that we have witnessed over the last several years. And you're going to spread your doors open and say, whoever you want to just come on in. That was the angle I was coming from.
Very
Because
good.
because a country, a leader of a country, I mean, you are a leader of a church. You are responsible when people commit themselves to your facility on a Sunday morning or whenever you have your gatherings. You are obligated to ensure they are safe, you know, Apostle. If anything happens to them in your care, you are going to have a problem.
Correct.
So the responsibility of a leader of a country, according to the basic definition of leadership when it comes to government, is the safety and security of its people. How in the name of peace can you guarantee Barbadians safety and security, opening your doors to whosoever will can come in from Africa?
Well, Rev, the other part that we need to pay attention to is, let's go back to 2019 with that trip to Ghana. And let's recognize that again, and let's be clear on this, the burial of our flag, the remains of sacred soil and this supposedly Ghanaian slave. Let's be very clear on this. You're opening up a country that is steeped in witchcraft. Okay? You're opening Barbados and Barbadians up to a very high and a very heavy level of witchcraft. And I'm going to prove it to you. And I had to clear up an issue with a gentleman that was speaking about and comparing darkness and light. And he was actually saying that darkness is the main element, and that if light came out of the darkness, so darkness was there before. And he peddled this and says, you know, things like the stars are always there, but only when it becomes dark and you see the stars, and people are wondering why they call Africa the dark continent, meaning to suggest that Africa is the original place for the information. And he talked about how a baby is in a dark womb before it is born, and all of these different things that he was talking about. But the point that I brought to him is this: the Bible says that the light shined in the darkness,
and the darkness comprehended it not.
Meaning that the darkness was trying to figure out the light. So you cannot come and tell me that I must embrace darkness when darkness is the lesser intellectual element. If darkness is trying to figure out, comprehend the light, then it is really light that I need and not darkness.
But Apostle.
Yes, sir.
Genesis chapter 1. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep.
Yes, sir.
And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, "Let there be light."
Yes, sir.
And the darkness was history.
Yes, sir. Well, Rev, I'm certain you're close to your Bible. Could you do me a favor and read from 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and the 6th verse?
Sure.
Okay.
2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 6. For
Yes,
it
sir.
is the God who commanded light to shine out of darkness,
There you go.
who has shone in our hearts to give the light of knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. Darkness is not overtaking us. Light is going to take over.
Thank you very much. So when you have people who are of this consciousness that people must submit to darkness, and they peddle Africa as the dark continent, that you must submit to the darkness, I have a big problem with an administration that is going to open this country to a continent that has a very dark consciousness. I mean, Africa is a very beautiful place, but it has a history of very dark activity.
Oh, yes, it does. It
Okay.
does, whether we like to admit it or not. You can't change
Yeah.
that.
Okay. I have my own right had to deal with individuals because I'm traveling extensively now. And even here in Barbados, there are people who are listening to individuals from Africa that are doing crazy things and making Barbadians do, listen, right? To prove my point to you, I spoke to one lady years ago who went to an event right here in Barbados. African minister, again, not an issue. But when you go to a service that is supposed to be Christian and you call an individual, ask them, what do they need? And they said, well, I have some people in my area that are keeping noise and doing different things. And you tell that person, okay, here's what you do. You try to get all the names of the people that are creating the problem. You write their names on a piece of paper and you go outside in your garden, you find a big rock, you fold that paper and put that paper under that rock. That's not Christian. That's not divine. That is not Holy Spirit. That's not gifts of the Spirit. That's straight up demonic.
Apostle, let me tell you something. You know, I know this isn't a religious show, but sometimes people need to be enlightened on some things. I am not going to call the Caribbean country that I was in. We were there for a crusade. And they took our posters and our pictures and they said all kinds of things over them. And they stuck pins all over them. And nothing happened to us. We came back the night from the meeting. And when we opened up our hotel room door, all of our furniture was floating in the air until we stepped in. When we stepped into that room, you should have heard the commotion. Because we didn't say a word, you know, we just stepped into the room.
Right.
Because darkness can't cope with light.
Correct.
It is as simple as that. What people don't understand is that everything on this planet begins in the realm of the spirit. Folk, listen. Listen carefully. All the governance, all the administration, all the plan, it begins in the spirit realm because it begins with something called a thought, and a thought is operating within the realm of the spirit. When you were going to build your house, it began in the spirit realm. You saw your house, you saw your property, you saw your land, you saw your curtains, you saw your bed, you saw everything to do with the house, and you didn't even buy the property yet. Because in the realm of the spirit, thought life is operating, because remember, that's where God is functioning.
Yes.
Before God opened his mouth and said a word, he thought things into existence. That is why he has the capacity that he has.
Yes.
And so some of you may think that when we start talking about these things, that we are nonsense. I saw some silly comment just now about the two of us are something to do with plantation. We still on the plantation. No, we're not on the plantation. Because we're not on the plantation that we can talk the way we are talking. That's why we can talk this way.
Exactly.
Because nobody can pull the wool over our eyes anymore. No colonial master, no man out of Africa, no man out of Arabia, no man out of Iran and Iraq. We had our eyes opened up not by a nation or by a religion. We had our eyes opened by a person, and his name is Jesus Christ. And I am not here to debate the matter or to argue with any other religious positions. I am simply telling you our position. That is why we see the way we do. That is why we can look at visa-free entry and raise the questions we are raising. That is why we can look at what is said in a speech in Ethiopia and an act in Uganda. Sorry, Ghana, right? Is it Ghana?
Yes, sir.
Ghana. Right? Mind you, Apostle, if you are lowering a national flag in any country and it touches the ground, you run the risk of imprisonment.
Correct.
And when a leader takes a national sovereign symbol and puts it into the ground. You never see, I don't know how many of you all have ever watched the ceremony of a American soldier when they're killed and when they're being buried. That flag that drapes the coffin does not touch the ground. Those soldiers come and fold it meticulously and hand it to the family, the wife or whoever of the fallen individual. It does not touch the ground because it's a sovereign symbol of authority in a nation. And when a country's leader violates the sovereignty of the country in that manner, you open the doors to all kinds of spiritual entities. And you all may not be able to understand and see that, but we do, and we can see the implications then, Apostle, in a realistic manner. You can see declines in economy. You can see increases in violent behavior in the country. You see people dropping dead, people, violence increasing. All these different kinds of things come as a result.
Correct. And it's like some of our people must understand, again, that we're not just talking things that we heard. We're talking things we've experienced.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I've told my congregation over and over, Rev, the only language these people understand is power. And whenever they come across someone that is willing and capable and is backed by divine sovereign power to speak to them, they're instantly played off as a renegade. You don't like Mia, you don't like the BLP, but there comes a time when you have to open the eyes of your people to get them to understand it is not an issue of hating someone. It is an issue of, it is very, very clear the mentality, the mindset of the person that you're dealing with. And that mindset, and I've always said, whenever you're dealing with a leader, leadership is a mindset. Because you cannot separate the individual from what is in their mind. And if they're given the perfect platform, they will demonstrate what is in their mind. And we've been saying that.
That's what Jesus said.
Okay.
Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart. And he certainly wasn't talking about the thing pounding in my chest.
Okay.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
That's it. And this is why,
yes.
It's why, I said, if God shows you the heart of a person, then you must be willing. I did my part. We did, my wife and I, my ministry, we went through a very brief season during COVID. And I always said, I did that not because I wanted to do it. I did it because I was instructed to do it. Okay. Now we're seeing the reality of, doing what was necessary to try to save the people. And as you mentioned there, Rev, so many people are, just going along by the wayside at this point. And if I'm not careful, I'll be at a funeral every day of the week. I'll be at a funeral every week, Rev. One today, another one tomorrow morning, then another one the same day in the afternoon. It's crazy what's happening. And what we need right now in understanding, when you open the doors, when you open the doors and the gates of your nation to any and everybody, the question that you must ask, what is the message you, as a leader, what is the message that you are sending to your people? Okay, when you say, looking at what we call the Proverbs 21 woman, the Bible said that her husband is seated with the elders at the gate. That is a man that is positioned to make sure that any and every person does not get to come in to the city to do business. And when you have a situation where an administration is going to say to everybody, okay, As long as you can get a ticket and you can get to Barbados, our doors are open to you. You can come on in. And people are going to come with their behavior. They're going to come with their ideas. I mentioned on the show, you know, when I was in England, I had the chance to speak to a very high-ranking nurse there, and she explained to me that the Ghanaian nurses are using Barbados as a stepping stone. And they're leaving Barbados, they're applying for jobs in England, and they're telling the English people, we were trained in Barbados. They're not saying we were trained in Ghana. They're saying we were trained in Barbados. And they're getting jobs, while the Barbadian nurses and people here in Barbados are looking for jobs. Matter of fact, they told me that one of the nurses called in here and said that they weren't feeling well, got on the flight, left Barbados, went to England, had already applied, had already gotten the job, told them that they were coming directly from Barbados and not from Ghana. And when the administrative staff here called that individual, they were already in England in their new position. So what are you saying? What are you actually telling Barbadians? We're going to bring people here that are going to take over your nation as far as jobs are concerned. What is the message that you're sending to the people of Barbados? So we have to make it clear to the people of Barbados, this kind of activity, this visa-free entry is going to spell danger for this nation and for the people of Barbados. And this is now the time to wake our people up, because they've been sleeping for too long. I think a lot of people love this administration. They've already stolen the last 3 elections, and they're going to do whatever they need to do to stay in power. And I'll tell you something, Rev, it is so critical right now for our people, our nation. And I believe that 70% of people that did not vote in the last election, and those who voted for the other parties and the Democratic Labour Party, we need to come together to save Barbados from this tyrannical act and activity that we are seeing right now. And I'm so serious about it, Rev. Something has to be done now before we wake up and find that Barbados is no longer for Barbadians.
Well, you know, Errol Barrow warned us about that, did he not, Apostle? He said that we're going to wake up one day and find that Barbados doesn't belong to Bajans. You know, and we are watching. I don't know if I would be correct in saying it. It may be a assumption on his part or something else, but almost like a prophecy. And he was speaking concerning, I believe, what he would have seen in terms of the future of the nation and people, how people were manifesting certain things at that time. He made a comment that I have never forgotten. I've heard the Prime Minister repeat the comment several times, but I wonder if it's just rhetoric or you don't get it. And that is, Barbados will be a friend of all and a satellite of none.
Come on.
And what I am observing is that Barbados is being used right now on the basis of this migration policy position of the government as a stepping stone to persons accessing areas or other countries and other areas of the world that they would not normally be able to access, because you now and listen, I think it is Hungary. Hungary, I think last year or 2024, increased the number of years you have to stay in Hungary before you can apply for citizenship and obtain a Hungarian passport. 5 years, which shows support and contribution significantly made to the country through taxes and different kinds of things. But we have cut it, but we have so cheapened, and I'm going to use the word tonight, we have so cheapened the sovereignty of this country that a person only got to come in here visa-free for 6 months. Don't import nothing to this country that we are aware of, because I haven't seen any criteria provided by the administration as to what a person has to show in order to obtain a Barbados passport, having stayed here for 6 months. And you can collect a Bajan passport, which is one of the most valuable passports in the world. And Mia Mottley did not make it so. Mia Mottley did not make. Mia Mottley came along and found it so.
Yes.
It has not made it so. And this is where a lot of people, I don't believe, remember. As a matter of fact, a lot of the younger ones don't know anything about the political history of this country. And they think that Mia Mottley is the political history. That is why we have to be so careful to ensure that we separate Republic Day from Independence Day.
Yes.
And yeah. I am almost tempted to make the statement of policy. I know you're going to laugh at this one. Get ready. You're going to laugh at this one. When I become prime minister, I am going to separate those 2 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when I become prime minister, I will repeal every single legislation this government has passed to the detriment of the people of this country. We need a leader of a political party that will stand up and tell the people, I will repeal the cybercrime bill as it is written. I will repeal the bill to do with crossing the floor as it has been written. I will repeal it. Have the intestinal fortitude to tell the people of Barbados when you stand up in front of it. And don't just tell them, do it.
Yes, sir.
Because we had a Barbados Labour Party government in 2018 in their manifesto tell the people of Barbados that within 18 months of coming to this administration, they would remove the 17.5% VAT back to 15%.
Mm-hmm.
We are now in 2026.
Yes, sir.
And it hasn't budged an inch. And the excuses, because of the requirements of the International Monetary Fund. But you knew that then when you made your manifesto. You should have known, as if you are any economist of any value, you should have known what the country would require, who you would have to go to get it, what might be the requirements of it. You should never have put it in the manifesto. You did. And once it goes in the manifesto, it is a sacred document. Notice I said not document, not covenant, because we talked about that already. Right? It's a sacred document, an agreement, a commitment, not an agreement, because the people didn't agree with it, a commitment you made to the people of this country.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you make a commitment, you tell me, when you make a commitment and you don't keep it, what do you call that?
Okay. Okay. Again, well, there's striking some really critical points here tonight. And it becomes clear, that I grew up in a day when my dad and those older folk, that when you shook someone's hand, it was pretty much, that was it as far as agreement was concerned. And my dad would tell me, you know what, you are not a man if you can't keep your word. See, and we have had countless episodes of this administration not keeping its word. So when people demonstrate that they cannot trust this administration, then they're standing on good ground. Because we remember even those 4 young men who said that they're into an agreement with the government. Remember those 4 young men?
Yes.
And they said, we kept our end of the bargain, but the government did not. And you know that nobody from the government responded to those 4 young men. Nobody responded to them to say, yes, we're right, we're sorry, we apologize. And now they're asking about crime. Well, you had an opportunity to do something about it and did nothing. So this administration is asking Bajans blindly, all of the lies that they told about COVID, all of the pressure that they put on persons about it, all of the lies, structured lies that were told. Now we have a situation where so many different things are happening here in this country. And it's because we have an administration, as you rightfully said, that does not keep its word. So you have, not only did you not remove the 17.5% back to 15%, but you added almost close to another 20, 22 different taxes during the last 8 years. And there were taxes, in many cases, sewage tax, garbage tax, all of these different things that they said, okay, this is going to be for 6 months. And Rev, it's been there for years now. So how do they expect Barbadians, and how do they expect this nation to trust them going forward? So this is where we're seeing millions of dollars stolen from the housing, the NHC. We're seeing all of these things happening. We're seeing millions of dollars in overrun at the, Carrie Festa. No response, no nothing. And everything that is said says to the people of Barbados, oh, this was necessary. And now, let me just say this part because it just came back to my mind. It was something that I wanted to talk about in an upcoming show. But you've already stated that 3 months from now, you're going to cut back on independence. You're gonna slice the budget.
But you see, you're going to have to cut back on independence because you wasted so much money in Carifesh. You can't afford independence, huh? You can't afford it. You see, again, if any man lack wisdom, and as I said at the beginning of the show tonight, Apostle, what has become clear to me is that this administration lacks wisdom.
Okay.
Now, our old people would call it common sense. You know what I'm talking about? Our fathers, our mothers in our day would have called it common sense.
Yes.
It's common sense, but of course, the more formal address would be wisdom. Now we are at the point in the program, folk, where we're going to be taking some of your comments, and I see one here I want to take on right away, Apostle.
Okay.
And it is this comment by Fair George 2975. And he is saying the same Margaret Thatcher's son who is banned from visiting the US, but Barbados has allowed or allows to visit, but you are worried about so-called terrorists from Africa? Shake my head. Fair George, get your information correct. Okay. There are no so-called terrorists from Africa. There are terrorists. You don't like to hear it because it got the name Africa to it. Wake up to the reality of it. You see, that's the kind of person I am. I don't mix words. People don't want to call a spade because it don't suit them and it don't line up with what they think or what they believe. Africa is filled with terrorists, and the activity is going on all over Africa now as I speak. It doesn't matter who funded it or who don't fund it. It's happening. And I don't know about Margaret Thatcher's son. I know nothing about him. I don't know if he was involved in any terrorist activity or otherwise. But for you to suggest that when we talk about terrorists in Africa, we are only talking about so-called, you clearly are oblivious to the realities of what is going on in Africa. Apostle, before you go on, remember your point. Yeah. I have been lecturing online to Africans for months now, since before the pandemic. And I was awarded a king's position in one of these places in Africa, one of the countries of Africa. I will not call the name, right? By one of the tribal people there in Africa. And I took that information and I sent it to a Christian minister in Africa who was converted to Christianity, because I know nothing about the African traditions or anything of the sort. And so I wanted to find out about it. This is an African. He is blacker than you and I. He doesn't speak English as well as either one of us, but he is a believer. He was saved out of witchcraft. He was a witch doctor. These are the people we talk with. So when we talk about this witch stuff, we ain't talking about none about it concoct in our head. These are people who we talk with who were formerly involved in witchcraft. We call them these doctors, village doctors and so on. Okay. And you know what he said to me? Don't touch it with a 10-foot post. He said, if you do, you open a door to your family.
Yeah.
And I sent back to them and I thanked them, but I declined the offer. Sorry, sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just want to make a point to this individual who's making this comment. Declassified documents. Go and find out the route that Bin Laden took when he was hiding. And you will see the network. You go on the FBI, you go on their channel. I watched the documentary to see the different African nations that he passed through on his way to Guyana. And you have people in Barbados who obviously do not do their homework.
Clearly.
This idea of coming on a show and just because you don't like a comment that a person is making, that it deems for you to come on a show and vent your stupidity. You go and do your homework to see if what the person is saying is accurate, if it can be substantiated before you leave a comment to prove that, instead of showing the world that we are people of intelligence and people who are willing to make sure that our information is solid, instead of coming on a show and attacking, let's find out the reality. The information is there, is declassified, and they can go online and see the movement of Bin Laden within Africa and the nations that were hiding within Africa. And you will not come on a show to make a silly comment about Margaret Thatcher and all.
And listen, Apostle, I want people to understand this. Look, because we're speaking about the matter of the concerns for visa-free entry, the aspects of the economic ramifications, the health ramifications, employment ramifications, security ramifications, that we don't love Africans and we don't embrace. That is not true. We're simply saying that because of and when I say history, I'm talking about back in AD 49. I'm talking about last year or year before, because of the current history of Africa and several of the countries in Africa. Caution is advised. Caution is advised. We're not against Africans.
Of course
and I said here already, look, people's religious persuasions are entirely up to them. It's a democratic society in which we live. We have a right to speak what we speak. They have a right to disagree. We can bring our evidence. They can bring their evidence, as we have done, and they can share their evidence. I see. Thank you so very much, Apostle. I see. Touch Entertainer. He says, "I'm a proud Rastaman. I'd vote for you. I never voted yet. That's for me." So I don't know. I think I better, Apostle. I think I better throw my hat in the ring and run for PM, because I said earlier tonight, I don't think I can do any worse. I don't think I can do any worse. But listen, the reality of it is that we are dealing with very factual things that should be the concern for every single Barbadian. We have an unemployment among our youth in excess of 20%. We have an unemployment generally across the country in excess of 8%. That is the statistical information we have recently received. We are indebted over $8 billion to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. We are borrowing out of our ears. The Prime Minister has recently talked about resetting tourism. When I say resetting tourism, the advertising, the promotion and so on for tourism. Well, if tourism is doing so well, you ought not to have to reset anything. But we know that tourism is not doing so well. It is known. You can't keep pulling the wool over people's eyes. People, those days are gone. Technology is so good, Apostle, that you can make a speech in Ethiopia, and before you get back to Barbados, they just know what you have said. Years ago, we had to wait till you get back to hear what you said, which is not going to be what you said. But we know now that what you said, because we can now watch you live on YouTube or Facebook. So you can't run and hide from these statements that you make, how you get out there and you pontificate and you bamboozle the minds of people in Africa. Okay, and Africans are extremely intelligent people. They're very informed. As a continent, it sits upon some of the richest resources on the planet. But let me remind you, loyal opposition, that the greatest enemies Africa had were their own presidents in their own countries, who were subservient to colonial masters such as France and England up to recently, which is why in what's the name of that place again? Apostle, help me with the young colonel, the young military man that took over Burkina Faso kicked France out just recently.
Yes.
Okay, and when he did, what it did is it set in train a movement that scared all the other African leaders of their countries, because they knew they were raping the country of its wealth and fattening their coffers at the expense of the people. And building massive properties all over Europe and all over the United States of America, and taking the money out by suitcases of money.
Yes.
And that was not European people doing that. That was African leaders doing it. So if you don't know what is happening in Africa, don't talk.
Yes.
You can look at Africa, the richest continent on the planet, with poorest people, the poorest people. How is it possible that countries sitting on gold and countries sitting on oil and diamonds could be so poor while their leaders are rich and carrying on the way they are? So that's why people gotta go and do their research. We are not here just talking. This is years and years Apostle has had of experience, years and years I have had, and we have both been involved in business and in religion. Well, we are not in religion. We are in relationship. So forgive me for categorizing you. I apologize. We are in matters of faith as well as matters of business. We do business. I have been a businessman for a lot of my life. I was involved in marketing, sales. I was responsible for the brand of BMW being brought to Barbados in the first place. And I was a Christian minister at the time. I was a pastor. And this is why I have said, Apostle, and I know you'll agree with me, it is time the church gets involved in the business of Barbados. And I made this statement, and I don't believe you will disagree with me. But if righteousness and justice are the foundations of God's throne, I want to believe that what He demands of you and I, Apostle, is righteousness and justice. And that is what we are talking about tonight. We are talking about an administration that committed itself in 2018, you will recall, Apostle, to transparency and accountability. It held the then government's feet to the fire, saying that when they came in within 100 days, they would have integrity legislation passed. It didn't pass up to now.
Correct.
What's the fellow in Parliament called again? Not the Speaker. The Clerk of Parliament, I believe, is supposedly still holding the envelope or envelopes containing the assets of all of them that went into Parliament. And we don't know up to now. 8 years later, we don't know up to now what people went into Parliament with. They have refused to pass the Freedom of Information legislation.
Wow.
They have refused to facilitate the crossing of the floor. You know what that is? That is an attempt to stifle transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to fear, then why should you be afraid if somebody crosses the floor?
Okay. Rev, I'll tell you this. Do you remember the show when I spoke about the information I had about the oil? I think
Yes.
Madam McLean. Do you notice that they haven't come back talking about the oil?
Yeah, I noticed nothing. I noticed that they've gone quite quiet.
Yeah, because
Well,
I have
they
that
might
information. I have that information on my laptop since 2007. So, as I said, I'm waiting on them to come back and lie to the people of Barbados before I hand that information to the relevant authorities here so they can publicize it. I'm not going to let them lie to the people of Barbados. I'm not going to let that happen. And that's one of the reasons, that's the problem. They do not want you to have information on them. And that's why they watch the Marcia Weekes Show, so that information that they may not have, or information that they need to have, that they don't have access to, that is shared here on the show, that brings them into alignment. So I have the information, and as I shared, I have the names of all of the 26 blocks. So I do not know where they get 19 from. So I have no idea who those 7 blocks are going to, but I will not let them rob Barbadians, because this oil did not come for them or to them. This oil belongs to the people of Barbados. And this is all that we are trying to say. You're clearly seeing what is in the mind of the person. You're listening. It is the same rhetoric over and over and over. Barbados is a free for all. If you can get a ticket and come to Barbados, you're welcome. And that nonsense has to stop. We have to make sure that the gates and the doors of our country are open to any and everybody. And if you want to seriously make, we used to call Barbados the gem of the Caribbean Sea, but somebody seems to have stolen its worth and has turned Barbados into the prostitute of the world. So it's time for our people to begin the process of coming together and make sure that we save our nation, so that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren do not grow up in a country that is supposed to be their own, but they're under the government and control of individuals who had nothing to do with the future and the destiny of this country.
Look at what Tasha Ford has said here, Apostle. I don't know if you can see it, but she says here, why are Barbadians not getting out on the street and stop talking? All we do is talk, and the PM talking sweet like a mother who wants to give her child castor oil. Why do you think there's such a reservation, Apostle, a hesitancy among Barbadians? Is it that they're not informed? Is it that they don't care? Is it that they've lost interest? What do you think is the reason?
I'll study that, Rev, and I'll hit on several reasons why this is the case. And one of the reasons that I have come up with is when you have improperly aligned yourself with a government that bears the type like the Barbados Labour Party, when you have ministers, business leaders, pastors, bishops, prophets, apostles that have aligned themselves with this party, BLP supporters who are no longer happy. When you have a march like what Madam Weekes has been doing, they are the ones that are going to talk, but you're not going to see them on the street, because they, at this point, don't want the government to know. For the government to see you marching is a clear sign you don't like them and you're not in favor of them. And there's so many people in Barbados who would rather stay in the shadows and make this administration believe that they're with them, when out of their mouths it is clear that they're no longer in favor of them. And that's one of the most dangerous things that I've seen. This administration has created some very unhealthy networks within and across every sector of Barbados, including the church, right? Including the church. So when you have already aligned yourself with this administration through whatever medium or whatever field or whatever element, whether you're taking a grant, whether you're taking monies from them, whether they're supporting your project or whatever, they are not going to, they know Barbados is going down the drain. They know things need to be changed. They know that the country is going from bad to worse under this administration. But yet they'll stay in their corner, they'll stay in their shops, they'll stay in their little groups, they'll stay on the block, and they'll talk and they'll talk. But then we have a march to say, listen, we've had enough and enough is enough. Let's come out. And those very people will not move because they cannot and they will not allow this administration to see them marching, see them on the street, because they want this administration to believe that they are in favor with them when in reality they're not. If I'm not in favor with you, I'm definitely going to come out there and I'm going to march. You're going to see me and I'm going to talk loud. I'm going to do my part to save my nation. But it is very critical for our people to get outside of their comfort zone, get outside of their pride, open up their eyes and see that this country is going down the hill quickly. And I say this out of, when I was campaigning and I met Mr. Brown, who was the driver of the first gantry crane here at the port. And with tears in his eyes, Rev, he said, I remember the year when Barbados amassed 290,000 tons of sugar. He said, all cut by hand, loaded onto the trucks and donkey carts, tractors by hand, taken to the sugar factory, 290,000 tons of sugar. And he said, now I never thought that Barbados would be struggling to create 29,000 tons. We did 290,000 tons of sugar.
But Apostle, what 29,000 tons? We can't even produce 5,000 tons.
Okay. Well,
of sugar.
At least that's when he was alive.
That was when he was alive, 29,000.
Yeah. And that's what he said with tears in his eyes. He says, I cannot believe. He said, if anyone had asked back then if Barbados was on her way to being a great nation, the answer would have been a resounding yes. And he's tears in his eyes. He says, I cannot believe that I am going to die in a Barbados that is struggling to even amass 29,000 tons of sugar. And we have to understand that we are causing our people to live in a Barbados that is so far off the road of its destiny. And until our people understand and get that vision, as the Bible reminds us, if you do not have a vision, you're going to perish. And this administration has not presented Barbados with a vision since they have come to power in 2018.
I see a comment here, and folk, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. BiMPay, we've covered visa entry, we've covered the Prime Minister's address in Ethiopia within the context of exposing the security aspects. And I want to thank, let me just see if I can flip back up here very quickly, Apostle.
Yes,
can't remember the name of the person, but they just posted an excellent Michael Ray. Thank you, Michael Ray, for posting that particular comment. And it's going to take up a lot of the screen there, Apostle. But
Yes,
it's showing there Boko Haram is a violent Islamic militant group, an insurgency and a terrorist organization based primarily in northeastern Nigeria. I don't need to say anything else with regards to the comment that was made earlier about so-called terrorists. I think Michael has made it very clear that it's not a matter of so-called. But I also, excuse me, also want to take a couple of other comments here. I was just on one. This one here by First Wizard. Again, I was recently conversing with someone about this. He said, but first, the opposition has a lot of repair work to do. They need
Correct.
to become relevant again. To be honest, at the moment, they're not. And I have, and I will be engaging. I will be engaging some of the opposition individuals personally. But there's one thing I believe is necessary, and that is a national apology. Apostle, when things don't go the way you expect them to, and you need to own responsibility, it is one of the things that separates a great leader from a good leader. Where great leaders take responsibility for what is happening under them, while good leaders tend to want to blame somebody else, in terms of another administrative individual. But I believe that a national apology, if it were forthcoming from the opposition, because they need to re-energize and recapture their base, which unfortunately is not the case at the moment.
Right.
And I believe when people are upset with you, you need to be able to come in humility and say, look, I am sorry we let you down, sorry we didn't do the things the way you expected us to. We apologize for that. But if given another chance, we commit ourselves to correcting that, something along the lines. But I believe their base is waiting to hear it, Apostle. And I believe if that base hears it, that the base will respond.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to now capture a caliber of individuals, and it is no reflection on those persons who are currently involved in any of the opposition parties, but you have to be able to capture a caliber of individual, particularly in the realm of honesty and integrity, and with a track record of those two, not just people who talk, but people who have a track record of honesty and integrity. If you are going to come to the nation as a replacement administration, and I think that is one of the things that this government rides high on, if you follow what I'm saying, where they feel that there's nobody better than they, than the ones they have. You don't have, look at the others. You follow. But many of their people are also new. And we're not known. It just happens that they're riding on the coattails of the prime minister. If you remove the prime minister from the equation, this government would not have won the election. That's a reality.
Well, Rev, let me say this. This government would not have won this election, number one, if the Christian community prayed, and if the Christian community came out and voted in this last election. And what I have found is that so much of the Christian community in this country loves the BLP. And that has been a detriment. I've actually had a conversation with one man of God that said, God showed him a particular thing, and then when the election came out, it was different to what God showed him. And he asked the question, was God wrong, or was he wrong? And he said, well, based on what he saw, he's going to change because, he's thinking that after, 3 consecutive 30 loves, that this person must be God's choice. And I said to him, did you read in the Bible where when Elisha gave Hazael the prophecy that he was going to be king and what he was going to do to Israel? And the Bible tells us that Hazael when he received the prophecy about being king, he went back to Syria and he went into the bedchamber of the king and he smothered the king to death and took over the reign. I said, have you not recognized that people steal dimensions of power and steal elements of power? Have you not read in the Bible where people have done things, killed their own brothers just to usurp power? And he said, I never really thought about it like that. And I said, you got to understand, how can you have an election and this time around 10% less more people voting and your candidates got the same amount of votes as the last time? You have to wake up and realize what's going on. And it's very critical for individuals to understand. I am about the destiny of Barbados. I'm not about party. I'm about the destiny of my country. And if the leader of Barbados is moving our nation towards the destiny God has for it, then I'm supportive. But if I can see that you're moving the nation away from faith, if you're gonna tell us to get our children back to Sunday school, but then you're going to be on a Sunday at an event bumping and grinding behind an entertainer, then that's hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned. If you can let all types of events in this country continue to be had on Sundays evening, early Sunday morning, Sunday after, if you can continue to discredit God, then there's no way that I'm going to be supportive of that. So at some point in time, our people must become more open-minded and more alert, more cautious about where God wants this country to go versus the desire of one political leader. And I think until we wake up, we're going to see so many things consistently begin to happen in this nation that, it's already thrown us into a state of sorrow. With, as you said, so many people that are dying, collapsing and dying. We're saying it over and over and over. Now we're at this stage where it's beginning to happen more and more and more. But now is the time for our people to wake up and realize Barbados is on the verge of losing its soul through a political party that Mr. Omanaka already told us that party has already lost its soul. So this is the reality. We can either wake up and begin to work on fixing the problem, or we can sit back, stay quiet, talk, and watch the country spiral further and further down the drain.
Almost as if the country is going to hell in a handbasket, as some of the old people used to say.
Yes, sir.
But I see a comment here, and we are very careful on this show, folks. So we are not inciting anything. So here, Hogan Yalu, I believe it is, says Barbadians. Let me see what it says there again. Barbadians need to accept that the only way out is widespread civil disobedience. Jesus recognizes that need for physical action, and he acted without fear or favor. I will say peaceful. I will always put the word peaceful. We will never advocate any civil disobedience that will incite violence. And sometimes, Apostle, as we have witnessed in the United States, sometimes you set out with a march, a peaceful protest, which can turn violent, because there are elements that are often inputted into the march, into the protests, with the specific intent of creating a violent environment in order to discredit the credibility of the protests. And this is something that we would have to watch very carefully with, because undoubtedly, given the amount of dishonest money circulating in our country, there will be protesters that will be paid to come into any national protest and disrupt that protest in a manner to cast a very bad view as it relates to the intent and purpose of such a protest. But this is one of the conversations I have had, and one I want to continue having with a couple of our esteemed legal luminaries, is the aspect of the Republic Constitution containing a clause, Apostle, that
Yes.
engages recall, number one, and where the people can garnish the national support to demand the president or whoever would be in that representative position to call a general election.
Yes, sir.
Because otherwise, one suffers through the period of what we are going through at the moment. And additional to that, I have felt that number one, elections should be prohibited. No, let me say prohibited. Elections should be kept to a 5-year period and never at the discretion of the prime minister.
Yes, sir.
And I
Yes.
am also advocating for term limits.
Yes.
Because when people remain in office too long, they become too corrupt.
Yes.
They become a corruption issue. These are things that I would love to see for the benefit of the people. I am not here for me. Every time we start this show on Friday nights, Apostle, I start with the national pledge.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go.
Amen.
And as I have started, Apostle, I want to end because it's 4 minutes after 10. And unfortunately, we have to bring the show to a conclusion. And Apostle, I would therefore offer to you your closing remarks, and I will close once again with our national pledge.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And again, awesome here being with you again on tonight on the show, Rev. And, of course, this tag team is, reclaiming our championship run. I am so excited each time that I have the opportunity to come and to add my thoughts and my personal process and my spiritual process to the Marcia Weekes Show. But I want to close in saying this, that again, we need to be very concerned as Barbadians about Barbados. And we have to make it clear that we will not allow our country to be disrespected locally, regionally, or internationally. And we will not allow our country to be used to fulfill somebody's personal agenda. And the time, I believe, for Barbadians to begin the process of coming together on a greater level of consciousness, awareness, intelligence, that we can sit and look at our country and deal with the matters that needs to be dealt with, so that Barbados can get back on track with the place and the vision that God has for it. And that's my closing remarks tonight.
Apostle, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your presence here. We've missed others, but we can hold the fort down. It seems that week to week, there is no shortage of issues to address, because it just appears as if a lack of wisdom is the mainstay of this current administration. And of course, when I say wisdom, it is the effective utilization of knowledge and information to the benefit of the people of Barbados. And so I want to thank you very much for coming on and assisting with our advancing of what we believe, we truly believe it is in the best interest of our country. As we close, again, I share our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I see, Dave, you have something up there. I am having a little difficulty reading it. If you could probably make it a little larger, that would be
The
great.
finalists for the Pick of the Crop finals.
Right. Okay. So let me see what that is.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can enlarge in my screen. The finalists for the Pick of the Crop finals.
The text,
We see out of the All Stars 10, Colin Spencer with Obedient Colin. Again, out of the All Stars, that would be Diamond. Teacher's Tale, again out of All Stars, Nikwa, if I'm calling that correctly. Don't you think that's a crime? Again out of the All Stars, where are these names coming from, man? I tell you, Yahanj. I don't know if I'm getting this correct. Chain Reaction, The Big Show, AC, Legends from the Grave. Out of The Big Show, again, Crystal, AI going win the crown. If you can take it up a bit there, Dave. Again, out of The Big Show, Web Colors in B. Web, okay. Out of The Big Show again, Jamal Slocum, talk about that. Again, out of The Big Show, Skunk Young, I Had a Dream. Again, out of The Big Show, Tai, Blame Game. House of Soca, Billboard, Blame Game. House of Soca, Kids Site, Talk Like Mia. House of Soca, Kwan, song entitled Codes. Out of the House of Soca, Raheem, song entitled Triggers. Again, out of the House of Soca, Soroil, Home Don't Feel Like Home. Out of the Shining Stars Calypso tent, The Announcer, The People's King. And finally, Shining Stars Calypso tent, Queen T, Lacking Intelligence. The reserve is Mr. Showman from the House of Soca with Bang Bang. And I believe that will be held on August the 3rd in the evening. And the venue and time, I believe, are to be announced in the future days. And we wish them all success in their endeavors. Well, God bless you all, loyal opposition. We thank you so very, very much for being with us tonight on the Marcia Weekes Show. If it was not for you, we would not be able to have a show. And so we're very grateful tonight for all of you who have contributed, who have come on board, who have made your comments, some good, some not so good, some for, some against, all kinds of comments. You see, that's the beauty of democracy. You're able to express your view or your opinion without the threat of being sanctioned or cast aside. We may not always agree, and we will certainly respond when it is necessary. But nevertheless, thank God, we still have the capacity of freedom of speech in our country. So, Dave, I turn now over to you for you to take us out. I'm sure you will have... can't make any bigger. I believe you will have that song to take us out. And so thank you again, Apostle, and thank you all loyal opposition for your presence tonight. Good night, and God bless.
Life isn't always in black and white. Sometimes there is more than what meets the eye. Just look around, I'm sure you will see the colors and hues that paint this country. Aquamarine oceans and sunshine so golden, with black people struggling daily. A cream economy, but up in St. Lucie, you know the water's still looking brown. That's why I pen this song, cause not once but after 3 times it has to be said. Bajans have decided the way they want to be led. And if 92 love don't sink it into your head, Barbados' favorite color got to be red. When the black man bank account never in the black, but the white man lives in a purple patch and is red we seeing. Only red we seeing. Colorful language is now how we live. We just even use it in front the kids when it's red we seeing. Only red we seeing. The NCSA solving their drug fight in the schools. They just only get red lights, man, it's red we seeing. Only red we seeing. All of the bloodshed, all of that is red. Be red and ready in BLP country. So we going to have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party in BLP country. Whoa. Some people just flatter to deceive. When they show you their true colors, believe. Cause people will change their colors on you. Some now wearing red, war, yellow and blue. Like Lashley and Tyra, the latest is simpler. Readily jumping on the red wave. No more using me, they now in the choir. Oh, what a great turnaround. The lost decade has been found, but I'm strongly the yellow party in 22. After last election, she cussed all them black and blue. Not a silver lining to bring them back from the dead. Even James Paul told Barbadians to vote red. At the idea forums that they are hosted by the red plastic bag man is red we seeing. Only red we seeing. The gun violence got the country doomed like the cricketers that just wear maroon man is red we seeing. Only red we seeing. From the government that just talk pretty. What the country needs is transparency, but it's red we seeing. Only red we seeing. Even though he fled, Austin still painting red. But now Ralph can't starve nobody in the LP country. So we going to have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party in the LP country. In the country's kaleidoscope you will see changes in the orange economy. Though the announcer he lost the fight, some crop over events get back the green light. Like party and sweet soca since Archer take over. And they even getting more prize money. The Calypso final gone back to the oval. And whether you believe it or not, we got back a hobble pot. But the music that we hear from these youngsters today, like they're trying to replicate 50 Shades of Grey. The society's moral standards have surely dropped. When vulgarity is what does make you cream of the crop. On the campaign trail up in St. Lucie, a young child was singing explicitly, but it's red we seeing. Only red we seeing. In private, some does wear their rainbow badge, but in public, all about in camouflage, and it's red we seeing. Only red we seeing. A woman leaves she house, and when she tack back, find a young upstart, and she husband laugh. It is red she seeing. only red she seeing. So it was alleged, and how bereavement was said. Lord have his mercy on the LP country. But we going to have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red